Thank you. Please be seated.
The coming configurations will also affect the power elite. One of the most important features of American history is the role played by a financial elite that has gained control of the U.S. monetary system. One of the major causes of the American Revolution was the desire for economic freedom. The Revolutionary War eliminated political tyranny, but it did not automatically establish economic freedom. The U.S. conceptual chart, the chart for July 4th, 1776, has Pluto at 27 degrees Capricorn in the second house of money and finance. You see this on the screen now. This indicates the likelihood that a powerful banking elite would dominate the nation's finances and thereby the government. To a greater or lesser degree, that has happened, and we are all living upon Earth and in the United States beneath that black umbrella of the domination of this financial power elite. The most important step taken by the financial elite is to institutionalize control of America's finances. This came about in the establishment of the Federal Reserve System in December 1913. The Federal Reserve Act, which created the Federal Reserve System, turned over the banking and business community to them the non-transferable money powers granted to Congress by the Constitution. The plan for the Federal Reserve System was worked out in 1910 at a secret meeting of bankers held at J.P. Morgan's estate on Jekyll Island, Georgia. Few today understand the system's origins or how it works. In effect, the Federal Reserve System functions as government within a government on behalf of the banking community, which created it under the guise of acting in the public interest. Its power is great since it can influence the flow of economic activity enough to unilaterally create economic policy. The Fed's chart, calculated for December 23, 1913, which has Pluto in Cancer in the 12th house of hidden influences, making an opposition to its Capricorn sun, shows that it was created surreptitiously to serve the interests of hidden power blocks. The slide shows transiting Neptune opposed the U.S. conceptual Pluto. During the next 12 years, the power of the financial elite may come to an end or be greatly diminished. Unfortunately, the influences that could cause the demise of the power elite could also cause the destruction of the U.S. economy. When the Fed was born, Neptune was at 27 degrees Cancer, forming an exact opposition to the U.S. conceptual Pluto at 27 degrees Capricorn. This shows the hidden but critical tie between the Fed and the power elite. It also shows that the institution may well dissolve if the power elite lose their power. The power elite are represented in the second house of the U.S. conceptual chart by Pluto at 27 degrees Capricorn. During the next 8 years, there will be a series of eclipses that will fall in close aspect to Pluto at 27 degrees Capricorn. A solar eclipse 29 degrees Cancer on July 22nd, 1990. A solar eclipse at 25 degrees Capricorn on January 15th, 1991. A lunar eclipse at 25 degrees Libra on April 15th, 1995. And a solar eclipse at 28 degrees Aries on April 17th, 1996. These will have the effect of eclipsing the power elite's power. Then in 1995, Uranus, the planet of violent and unpredictable change, will cross the U.S. Pluto at 27 degrees Capricorn 3 times, shaking and perhaps breaking the elite's grip on the U.S. economy. This slide shows transiting Neptune conjoined U.S. conceptual Pluto. Finally, in 1996 and 97, after Uranus has shaken up the financial powers that be, Neptune will make 3 conjunctions with Pluto in Capricorn and in opposition to its own position in the Federal Reserve System's natal chart. During this transit, the nation's financial system stands a strong chance of dissolving, and with it the power of the financial elite, if it has not already been destroyed or restructured along more enlightened lines. It is at this time that the Federal Reserve System is likely to be restructured or dissolved, depriving the financial elite of their most powerful mechanism of control of the government and economy of the United States. What I have just given to you is the key to the Achilles heel of the establishment's control of this nation through their manipulation of the money system. The first thing you have to recognize is that their downfall is assured. It is prophesied in Revelation and by the Lord God himself. For these are the fallen angels who have taken an embodiment in our midst and moved to positions of power since time began. They have manipulated the people by manipulating the light that accrues from their sacred labor, which is focused and crystallized in the money system. What we have to see then is that the sons of God in the earth must lead the children of the light to come out from among them, to be separate, to move away their monies from investments in the power elite establishment banking houses. To withdraw then the support of the financial elite will contribute to their decline, but it will rescue the people from being destroyed along with the financial elite when they meet their karma that descends through this astrology. This power elite are for the most part godless, do not give acknowledgement to Almighty God because they believe that they are the gods in the earth who hold your destiny in their hands. Therefore, you see, if the people have teachers who rise up, shepherds in their midst, who teach them what is happening, what is bound to happen, and show them how to set up their own investment systems and their own banking houses, and how to invest in those things that are not going to fall when the economy falls, the people will survive, and only the fallen ones will go down. The nation does not have to be destroyed by this power elite. Abraham Lincoln gave his life to defend America from takeover by the power elite, and he was assassinated by their interests because they were determined to bring in this system that we are under today and this yoke that is upon us. Today, then, more than a century later, we can see that we, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, can take our union with God and manifest the light that will see that a nation and its sacred labor and its monetary system survive out from under the control of these fallen ones. Saint Germain said this in May of 1986. The prophecy that is written in Revelation and in the Old and New Testament, that is written in the very sands and in the ethers which may be perceived, is not final. This is my cry to the age. You are mediators between mankind who are in a state of ignorance and rejection to the truth of the teachings of Jesus Christ we bear, and the oncoming karma returning. You, as anointed ones, Christed ones, by choosing this calling and election, may form a body of light that does indeed become the manifestation of the all-consuming flame of God. And that karma can be transmuted, beloved. And remember, the requirements are few. 10 righteous men could save an entire city by their righteousness, proving that the power of God in manifestation is far greater than millions engaged in the blasphemy of the anti-light and the desecration of the innocence of the child. Opportunity knocks. Opportunity is the name of Portia, who is the twin flame of Saint Germain. Aquarius is not only an age of freedom, but of opportunity. And opportunity is a flame of justice. It is divine justice that we have opportunity. Now, we have to see to it that we take that torch of justice and seize the opportunity, that we not be found as the unjust ones who failed to walk through this open door. Now, Earlier this evening, I mentioned that hard aspects, conjunctions, squares, and oppositions between Saturn and Uranus coincided with periods of war. I would like to review several other cycles of war. There is a correlation between the sunspot cycle, which peaks about every 11 years, and the onset of wars. You now are seeing this on the screen. Psychologist Burl Payne discovered that international battles begin about 2 years before the sunspot cycle peaks, although they occasionally occur after the peak. In the chart on the screen published by Payne, the dark bars show the sunspot peaks, and the white bars show when international battles begin. His chart shows the next sunspot peak in 1990, and the start of battles between June 13th and 21st, 1988. June 13th through the 21st is an extremely volatile period, which we're going to douse with violet flame and our Archangel Michael rosaries. With or without sunspots, other astrological aspects show there is a strong indication that the United States will be involved in a major military confrontation at that time. The Sun, Mercury, and Venus will be transiting in Gemini. Saturn and Uranus will be in Sagittarius, and Mars will be in Pisces. These will all make hard aspects to Mars and Neptune in the U.S. conceptional chart. The planetary grouping of June 13th to the 21st, 1988 is similar to, but more powerful than, the planetary grouping of May 17th, 1987, which triggered the attack on the USS Stark. This is the astrology you see on the screen. The planetary indications for the attack on the Stark were so clear that a year earlier I was able to predict the United States would be involved in a major military incident at sea. The likely date for the event was May 14th, 1987. This turned out to be just 3 days before the Stark attack. Now, it's very interesting that 2 missiles were fired. One didn't reach its mark. The one that did reach it didn't destroy all aboard or the entire ship. There was a mitigation of that karma. That karma could not be totally erased by the violet flame calls because people have to learn lessons from their karma. And America is asleep. Her international military strategy and policy is absolutely going nowhere with no focus and no real purpose. And the people have to awaken to the fact that their leaders are betraying them. The Stark incident was intended to make us wake up and realize that our military personnel, whether on bases or in any branch of the armed services, are not protected against nuclear war or incoming accidental missiles. And this is a crying shame of our time, that our government is advertising for young men and women to join the armed forces, and it does not give them the protection that they should have when they serve to defend freedom worldwide. While we're about that subject, the civilian population is also not protected by what should be a basic civil defense system in America, as it is in other free nations such as Sweden and Switzerland, as it is massive in place in the Soviet Union, and absolutely phenomenal in Red China. And so our people themselves, whether they live near targets or whether they are in major cities, those who are in the armed forces who are on those targets are not protected. And our government exists to protect human life. And we need to understand that those who have the light and see this cause and see this astrology activate for maximum protection for our population. Now, concerning these sunspots and earthquakes, Marcia Adams is also an expert on the relation between the two. And she has plotted wars against the sunspot cycle going back to the 1700s. Like Burl Payne, she found a correlation between sunspots and wars. But she found that wars tend to occur about 3 years after the peak of the sunspot cycle, although they occasionally occur before the peak. I tend to agree with her. I don't feel that the vibration of accuracy is there on the theory of Burl Payne that I just gave to you. Obviously, we are looking at a period before and a period after, and we have to tend the flame in that configuration. It is not clear whether Payne or Adams is right to many, but in one sense it really doesn't make much difference, since they both agree that wars occur close to the sunspot cycle peak. And the cycle is going to peak late in 1989 or early 1990. Therefore, we are moving into a cycle which shows the onset of war. Adams also found that 2 years after the sunspot cycle peaks, very large magnitude earthquakes, those 8 and above on the Richter scale, occur for a 2 to 3 year period. Saint Germain will be dictating to us tonight, and so I won't give all of the comments I could make on what I'm telling you, but I will get through it so we can hear his comments. There are 3 major astrological cycles based on the relationship of the planets to each other. These correspond to positive periods of harmony, growth, optimism, and peace, and negative periods of destabilization, disruption, and decay. A negative period in these cycles occurred between 1910 through 1919. The most intense phase of the cycle began in 1914, the year that World War I began. In an almost identical manner, these cyclic indices hit their most negative period in 1940 at the start of World War II. Negative cycles also coincided with the Korean and Vietnamese wars. In the late 1980s and 1990s, early 1990s, these indices will be in the depths of their negative cycle, indicating conflict of the magnitude of the past world wars. Now is the time to ask the overwhelming question: who will fight these wars? If we analyze the astrology of Earth's nations in light of the worldwide military and political situation, we must conclude that a great many nations are likely to be engaged in some kind of conflict, major or minor, in the coming 6 to 12 years. Nevertheless, I believe that the United States and the Soviet Union are prime candidates to fight a major war in the near future. Before I explain why, I would like to mention that a lot of Americans do not believe that this can happen. Some believe that we have come too far for God to allow the earth to be destroyed, and that we are on the verge of entering a golden age. I believe that this is wishful thinking. The United States has a nearly exact square of Mars in Gemini to Neptune in Virgo in its conceptional chart. Astrologers find progressed charts useful in examining the influences that impact a person, nation, or institution. In the chart of the U.S. Constitution progressed for 1989, there is a nearly exact T-square, a right triangle in space, between Mars in Cancer and Neptune in Libra and the Sun and Moon in Aries. These 2 configurations show that despite a generally practical nature, the American people have a strong tendency to engage in illusory thinking and self-deception, particularly in matters that relate to other nations and foreign affairs. It also shows that the U.S. Constitution is being treacherously undermined. In all areas of national life, things are not what they seem. Neptune, the planet of illumination and refinement, is also the planet of illusion and deception. Since Neptune is heavily afflicted in these U.S. charts, we must be on guard against illusion. The illusion that if we think peace, peace will come about. It is not mere thinking, because thinking does not transmute the karma of nations or of the fallen angels who have been waging their wars of rivalry, their wars to dominate territory or to take control of commodities or populations or foodstuffs, territorial wars for which they line us up and use us as fodder. What we have to realize is that their intent has not changed. While we are engaged in our meditations on peace and our harmonic convergences, they are busy in their plans at war making. I can tell you this truly because Saint Germain has taken me up for me to hear the behind-the-scenes conversations in the very Kremlin itself and in those secret places of our own government. I can assure you that what the people want is not what the power elite wants, and they are the ones that pull the strings on this planet. And it is their astrology and their karma that we're talking about tonight. So we, the people, may raise up our peace banners, but we have to be careful that we do not let the power elite run away with our planet. I'd like to explore the astrological influences which indicate a high probability of war between the United States and the Soviet Union. Here you're looking at transiting Pluto conjoined the USSR Sun, opposed to the US natal Sun. Earlier tonight, I pointed out that the United States natal Sun at 10 degrees Taurus is opposed to or in polarity with the Soviet Union's Sun at 14 degrees Scorpio. As a result, the destinies of these two nations are intimately interrelated. Now, I'd like to point out to you, since I am, as far as I know, the only person that is charting the natal chart of America on the inauguration day of George Washington, I am the only one that is drawing these conclusions from the interrelationship of these two charts. Again, therefore, the incomplete knowledge of astrology, as the incomplete knowledge of Nostradamus, is giving a false picture to the American people who follow those two courses of interpretation, and therefore allowing them to indulge in their illusions because they are not properly forewarned. If you examine the history of the US and the USSR, you will note a curious pattern of friendship and enmity, often simultaneously, that derives from the polarity of their natal suns. I can't wait for you to read the Nostradamus predictions, because this is exactly what the 16th century seer saw if you interpret his quatrain by the correct French translation and in the light of the geopolitical configuration of today. Now, for the first time since this relationship began 70 years ago, Pluto will make its conjunction to the Soviet Sun and its opposition to the US Sun. This will occur between January 1988 and October 1991, when Pluto is transiting between 12 and 18 degrees Scorpio. In mundane astrology, that is the astrology of nations, Pluto transits of this sort are associated with the outbreak of wars. They are also associated with mortal challenges other than war. As a result, even if the nations do not go to war, they will face challenges so severe or nearly as severe as war. These could include financial problems, nuclear power accidents, power struggles, civil unrest, terrorism, and a challenge to both governments' grip on power. Pluto alone has not, to the best of my knowledge, triggered a war. Wars are usually associated with some combination of one or more of the outer planets and Mars. These may be either transiting or in the nation's charts. On February 14th, 1989, 1 year from tomorrow, Mars will be transiting at 15 degrees Taurus, conjoined the US natal Sun, and opposed to the Soviet Sun, conjoined Pluto. This is the slide you're seeing at this time. This is a very explosive placing and could ignite a war. As Mars continues its transits during this period, it is capable of initiating conflict between the two nations every time it passes through the critical degrees of the fixed signs, that is, within a few degrees either side of 15 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. On November 26, 1989, Mars will make a conjunction with Pluto at 15 degrees Scorpio and the Soviet Sun at 14 degrees Scorpio. This transit is more likely to ignite a war between the United States and the Soviet Union than Mars' transit in Taurus, since the United States is likely to be in a state of financial chaos at that time. This transit comes just slightly more than 2 weeks after the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn opposed to Jupiter in Cancer that is likely to trigger major debt liquidation in the United States and possibly lead to the fall or paralysis of the United States government. For this and other reasons that I will explain in a moment, this is one of several critical dates for war between the superpowers. On October 2nd, of 87 in New York City, El Morya gave a dictation, and he stated that unless the United States had the necessary defenses, there could be a confrontation between the superpowers in 24 months. November 1989 is 25 months after his prediction. When we take a more complete look at the relationship between the United States and Soviet natal charts, the intensity of the transit of Pluto becomes even more clear. critical planets in the charts of the two nations form a grand square, which is an extremely powerful configuration that occurs when 4 or more planets are at 90-degree angles and make a square. In addition to the U.S. Sun in Taurus forming in opposition to the Soviet Sun and Mercury in Scorpio, the U.S. Pluto forms a conjunction with the Soviet Uranus in Aquarius, which forms in opposition to the Soviet Saturn in Leo. This grand square is extremely volatile and shows a relationship between two nations that is violently explosive. Grand squares tend to be static, however. Therefore, it takes extreme pressure, such as could be provided by a transit of Pluto across a critical degree, to release the tremendous energy locked up in the grand square. I'd like to show you a configuration which has the power to activate the US-Soviet Grand Square, which you're looking at right now. In 1990, the progressed US conceptional Sun will be at 15 degrees Aquarius, conjoined the US natal Pluto and Soviet Uranus. The progressed US conceptional ascendant will be at the 13th degree of Leo, conjoined the Soviet Saturn. Transiting Pluto, of course, will still be conjoined the Soviet Sun in Scorpio, opposed to the US Sun in Taurus, and square to the rest of the planets in the Grand Square. On August 6, 1990, there will be a partial lunar eclipse at 13 degrees Aquarius in close aspect to every planet in this configuration. This eclipse is the force that could trigger a US-Soviet conflict in much the same way a lunar eclipse conjoined Pluto triggered the Chernobyl disaster. There are other aspects and planetary patterns I could describe that could trigger war between the United States and the Soviet Union during this period, but I think you get the general idea. Before we leave the subject, I want to remind you that once we get past this period, with or without a war, that does not mean the rest of the century will be peaceful. The Capricorn mega conjunction of January 1994 is fully capable of igniting war. At the close of the century, we will have another Saturn-Uranus square, which, as I pointed out earlier, coincides with major wars. Saint Germain has said, "Unless sufficient quantity of violet flame be invoked, elemental life will no longer bear the burden of the cross of planetary karma, and there will be in this decade significant changes in the very surface of the earth. See the handwriting on the wall, on schedule the descending karma of the dark cycle, the 7 last plagues, the 4 horsemen, all delivering to the earth the mandate of personal and planetary karma. Yet God has already arranged ahead of time and from time immemorial for the staying of the hand of that darkness, for its transmutation by the light of the heart and by the sacred fire." On July 17, 1999, Saturn will be at 15 degrees Taurus, square to Uranus at 16 degrees Aquarius. Those degrees may sound familiar. They are precisely the critical degrees in the planetary patterns which could trigger war between 1988 and 1992. Saturn and Uranus will form a T-square when Saturn conjoins the US natal Sun in Taurus, and both oppose the Soviet Sun in Scorpio, and all of them square Uranus. In other words, there is again the prospect for a major US-Soviet war. War and economic catastrophe are interrelated. Economic conditions are one of the most reliable indicators of war. The configurations we are discussing show how these two social phenomena are likely to interact in the near future. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is likely to trigger an economic downturn in November of 1989, is related to the growth and development of socialism and communism. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction of 1846 was followed by the publication of the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx in 1848. As the Saturn-Neptune cycle developed, it coincided with the establishment and growth of the main European socialist parties. The next two conjunctions of Saturn and Neptune coincided with the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 and Stalin's death in 1953 and Soviet expansion into the Third World. At the square of the two planets in 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan and became embroiled in the Polish crisis. In some, major Saturn-Neptune cycles have coincided with periods of Soviet expansion or aggression. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction of 1988-89 will mark a crucial turning point in Soviet communist development and thus world history. We, the people who see this, can take the flame of freedom and use it to see that that conjunction does not prove a greater expansion of world communism, but fulfills the prophecy of Nostradamus for the turning back by the law of more of this momentum of expansionism of the totalitarian governments of the communists. As we have seen, this conjunction also projects the triggering of international economic turmoil. This shows that during this cycle, Soviet aggression and Western economic chaos are interrelated. Thus, the power elite in the West, the international bankers and the Western monopoly capitalists have created the West's Achilles heel, whereby in times of economic crisis, Soviet aggression may enter in. How they are interrelated now are seen through the astrology of the recent summit meeting, during which Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev signed the INF Treaty. This is related to 2 points in the zodiac central to our discussion of war and economic catastrophe: 29 degrees Virgo and the 12th through 18th degrees of Scorpio. The Reagan-Gorbachev summit began December 7th, 1987, the 46th anniversary of Japan's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. Here we're showing the astrology of Pearl Harbor. The chart for the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, has the progressed U.S. Mars, the planet of war, conjoined transiting Neptune, the planet of illusion, intrigue, and plots, at 29 degrees Virgo, the precise degree of the recent solar eclipse. The red arrow on the screen points to the solar eclipse, the progressed U.S. conceptional Mars, and transiting Neptune, all conjoined at 29 degrees Virgo. These planets also conjoin the U.S. conceptional midheaven and the ghost of the 1980-81 Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in early Libra, affecting the president and the government. In the Mars-Neptune conjunction was the principal significator of the Japanese sneak attack. Thus, the September 22nd, 1987 solar eclipse at 29 degrees Virgo, which puts the U.S. government and economy in such a perilous position, not only activated the ghost of the 20-year cycle of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Libra, threatening the life of the president and the government, but it also activated the ghost of Pearl Harbor. Any treaty signed under that influence carries the ghost or residual influence of a sneak attack. The point at 29 degrees Virgo, the September 22nd eclipse, will also be activated by the square of Mars, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, conjoined in Capricorn, February 23, 1988, with their wide range of economic, social, and military influences. Thus, the summit to sign the INF Treaty was one of the most important integrating and triggering events prior to the period of extreme economic and military tensions that commences February 23, 1988. Saint Germain said concerning the economy in 1986, "Economic debacle is foreseen. Prepare. Setbacks will be sudden. Be not lulled by the heyday. Many band-aids upon the economy, the money system, the banking houses. These will not prevent the collapse of nations and banking houses built on sands of human greed, ambition, and manipulation of the lifeblood of the people of God." In 1986, he said, "The mitigating factor in economic debacle and nuclear war, in plague untold and death, is the nucleus of light bearers and the quotient of sacred fire they invoke." In the light of the relation between economic activity and war, it is interesting to note that Jan Šejna, former chief of the Czech Defense Council, the foremost decision-making body in Czechoslovakia, said that Gorbachev initially refused to come to the summit due to the behavior of the U.S. economy. According to Šejna, Soviet military strategy is to launch a preemptive first strike against the United States if the economy falls apart. Shana believes that Gorbachev initially refused to accept Reagan's offer to come to the United States because he was waiting to see if the US economy would collapse. When the economy failed to collapse, the obvious conclusion is that the Soviet Union decided that this was not the time to launch a first strike attack, but to pursue the course of diplomacy instead. And therefore, Gorbachev agreed to the summit to gain ground for that eventual moment when, as it has been on the drawing board of the Soviet Union for decades, to launch that strike against the US. Now, this particular statement I'm making is supported by a number of defectors and individuals I've interviewed at Summit University Forum, my talk show that goes on cable across the country. This is the hardest thing for New Age people to even face or contemplate. In fact, when they hear about such predictions or statements, they become angry. And many times they simply walk out of my lectures. They don't even want to hear about the idea or entertain it. It is our tendency toward illusion in foreign affairs that makes us want to believe the visiting prince that comes from the East, the Oriental, who is prophesied by Nostradamus to leave his seat and cross Europe with his armies. Another one of the misinterpretations of Nostradamus that makes us believe that that's going to be a blue-turbaned Arab coming out of the Middle East. We need to look at these things and at least consider them before we decide we disagree with them. So I'm asking you, in the objectivity of the free thinkers of the New Age, to take that book, Saint Germain on Prophecy, consider what I've written, and consider what you think. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. I just would like a listening ear for a few moments of your life, that I might give to you something that can save your life and give you a real understanding of your destiny for freedom in the New Age. Proponents of the INF Treaty argue that the world will be made a safer place to live in, since it will eliminate a class of nuclear weapons and reduce the number of warheads in Europe. Successful peace treaties are usually concluded when there are harmonious contacts between Jupiter and Venus and the Sun. On December 7th, Venus formed a conjunction to Neptune in Capricorn and a square to Jupiter in Aries, a configuration whose influence is characterized by intrigue, deception, and self-deception. Nothing that would be likely to make the world a safer place in which to live. The treaty being concluded, if ratified by the Senate, will clear the last block to the Soviet intent to wage a chemical, biological warfare against Europe. That documentation is given to me by sources on Earth today, by people and by documents. The documentation of that is given to me by Saint Germain and by the spirit of prophecy he has upon me. The likelihood of it you are hearing now in the astrology that I'm covering in this lecture. Much of what happened at this summit depended upon the behavior of Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. It was very clear during that summit meeting who was on top of things, who was the realist, who had the power in the palm of his hand. This we predicted ahead of time by merely looking at their charts. Gorbachev's chart is a study in contradictions. He is a Pisces with a Neptune opposition to his Sun and a Leo moon trine to Uranus and Aries in his 10th house. This combination of planets gives him the ability to create and sustain an image, a great deal of charisma, an ideal planetary pattern for promoting glasnost. The Sun-Neptune opposition reveals that glasnost is an illusion. Gorbachev's other side is revealed by an extended T-square, his natal Jupiter and Pluto in Cancer in his 12th house of secret activities, conjoined his Cancer ascendant and Mars in Cancer in the 1st house, opposed to Saturn in Capricorn in the 6th and Venus in Capricorn in the 7th, all of which square his natal Uranus in Aries in the 10th. This configuration shows Gorbachev to be a relentlessly ambitious man, driven by an obsessive need for power. He is secretive, ruthless, callous, and willing to manipulate without thought or feeling. He will never forget his past struggles and will always be surrounded by those who will attempt to take his power, a circumstance which will make him all the more ruthless. He has the capacity to be cruel, treacherous, resentful. His is the psychological type that is capable of going to war, using nuclear weapons deliberately. He is either psychic or uses psychic and occult powers to gain or maintain power. Mars and Pluto transiting in Scorpio were conjoined the Soviet sun in trine his natal sun during the summit, which put him in a very powerful position. Gorbachev is the supreme realist on the planet today. He knows what power is, he knows what the manipulation of power is, he knows how to use it. He has, however, extreme pressures on him from the ever-present enemies in the Soviet Union and from social and economic pressure in his nation. No astrological or economic indicator shows that the Soviet economy is likely to improve. The Mars-Pluto conjunction square his natal moon in Leo shows that Gorbachev fears the Soviet people and the loss of status. Thus, he was negotiating to gain the upper hand because he feels his survival depends on it. To a certain extent, the Soviet Union is an enemy cornered, and you know what an enemy cornered does. They are cornered by the collapse of their economy. To the degree that Gorbachev succeeds, our survival is endangered. In fact, our survival is precarious anyway due to the intense and redundant nature of the astrological configurations that we have been discussing. Ronald Reagan's chart was not nearly as strong as Gorbachev's during the summit. He was already influenced by the solar eclipse, the square of the Capricorn conjunction to the US midheaven, and the reactivation of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction of 1980. His own chart showed a lot of pressure, particularly from transiting Saturn, Uranus, and Sagittarius, opposed to his natal Pluto in Gemini. As I mentioned earlier, with all other considerations factored in, these transits have the potential to be fatal. Ronald Reagan clearly did not have the upper hand at this summit, and clearly was in a state of illusion. He has put himself in a state of illusion and euphoria to seal himself from the absolute realities of the failures of his administration and his failure to take action when he should have taken action, and his blunderings of taking action when action should not have been taken. I'm sure you have all groaned on to see America represented by such an individual who began with a certain promise of freedom and has ended, as far as I'm concerned, with a fizzle and a betrayal of the American people. He has betrayed all of the people. From the right to the left to the center, this man has betrayed our national identity. And it's a real crisis and a cross that each one of us bears. But I bring you the words of Saint Germain again, and these are his prophecies that we have to look at seriously. Concerning this summit, all other considerations to the contrary of all the talk of peace, Saint Germain says you have every reason to believe, to be concerned, and to be prepared for a first strike by the Soviet Union upon these United States. You have every reason to be alert, for, beloved, my word and your response, your very preparedness, is the one condition that can prevent the almost inevitable scenario of nuclear war. What that preparation demands is a preparation nationwide, and that is something on which the light bearers of America are truly blocked today, blocked by their own perceptions of what is really happening, and then blocked by a Congress, a military establishment that has become a lumbering beast that cannot act in reality and act in time. A dictation given this year, the first of the year, from a being on the violet ray, that which could precipitate untimely war or cataclysm or economic collapse is the absence of violet flame in the earth. By that increase of the violet flame in all who are the issue of God, it is our vision and our determination that planet Earth shall have a greater momentum of the violet flame to hold up the tent of America, to hold up the nations. Gautama Buddha, dictating in 1983, said, "I would remind you lest any fear that all prophecy concerning light and darkness may fail. It may fail for a very good reason, for the people of God have made strides and accelerated, and therefore the dark cloud has been dissolved and a new day of opportunity is born. We desire, therefore, to reinforce in your heart that whatever you may have interpreted as prediction of cataclysm, worldwide or specifically here or there, must not remain in your mind as something that has been stated with ultimate definition or finality by any of our bands, but only as a reading of world karma and as a reading of the consequences of world karma. The great necessity of the hour, says Mother Mary, is to bring to the physical attention of the light bearers of earth the immediate availability of the light through the science of the spoken word. I can assure you that the change on earth by a cosmic alchemy, were tens of thousands to give the violet flame daily, could be so phenomenal, not only would you wonder where the problems went, but you would forget that you ever had any problems. This cycle of danger that I've spoken to you of this evening is concurrent with a cycle of opportunity. During the dangerous period between 1988 and 1992, Pluto will be orbiting the Sun inside the orbit of Neptune, something that happens only once in every 248 years. This cycle has coincided with epochal events including the birth of Jesus, the baptism of Clovis into the Christian Church, the discovery of the United States of America. The Uranus-Neptune conjunction, which happens only once every 172 years, is also associated with new phases of history, which have a scientific and mystical character and can lead to greater freedom, innovation, and enlightenment. Now, concerning the chime I was telling you about of Saint Germain, this is what he said. I am hopeful in the profoundest sense of the word that you will hear my cry and know this, that God our Father has truly entrusted to my heart an opportunity to save this nation under God, not I alone, but many masters of light. The chime of an ancient bell now sounds. One of my angels, called by Portia, does begin this chiming. It will sound in the ear of every true son and daughter of liberty, as though he or she does hear a liberty bell that long ago rang on other spheres. This chiming, beloved, shall continue as the inner call, and if it stops its chiming, beloved, Cosmos shall know that I, Saint Germain, have no longer opportunity to rescue the light bearers. Therefore, beloved, let the giving of the violet flame on behalf of those who respond and hear be continuous as a vigil unto the seventh age. So long as there are those who respond, even a single heart reciting my violet flame mantra in each 24-hour cycle, opportunity's door shall remain open and the chime shall be heard. For the very purpose of uniting the light bearers of the world, Jesus and Saint Germain together worked in the founding of the Keepers of the Flame fraternity. As early as 1961, the Keepers of the Flame lessons are sent monthly to members. Membership does not require that you leave any church or any other organization or any other teacher. It is an adjunct to your spiritual path which you study in your home, receiving the step-by-step lessons. One thing you do is you give a commitment to Saint Germain to keep the flame of life on earth, and you study under the lords of the seven rays. Beloved light bearers of the world, the handwriting is in the skies, but there is another handwriting in our hearts, and it's a valentine from Saint Germain and from our Father, and it simply says, I love you. And because God loves us, we have this opportunity to move through that purple fiery heart of Saint Germain. Yes, to move and to win. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for your love and kind attention, allowing me to deliver this message to you. I'd like to give you a brief break so we can all prepare for Saint Germain's dictation, which now follows. Thank you. We're going to sing a song to Saint Germain. It's called Hail Freedom Flame. It's on page 27, number 89.
shine away. Cosmic paralyze and we the world destruction, to create and build the power of construction, and reverse of it, men to God reality. Oh, I wish I was in the land of cotton, old times there are not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Then I wish I was in Dixie. Hooray, hooray, in Dixieland I'll take my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Hail Saint Germain, the keepers of the flame invoke thee. This hour of need, O God of freedom, we salute thee. O'er land and sea, the cosmic flame of freedom blazes. Bless the bold and strength and fire of holy purpose, freedom banner now unfurled. We go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. From the walls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Anchors away, my boys, anchors away, until we meet once more. Here's wishing you a happy voyage home. Over hill, over dale, we are in the dusty trail, and the caissons go rolling along. And wherever you go, you will always know that those caissons go rolling along. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in them, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of great? Freedom we claim, freedom shall reign, the freedom flame of Saint Germain. California, here I come, right back where I started from, where powers of flowers bloom in the sun. Each morning at dawning birdies sing, and everything the sun-kissed mist said don't be late. That's why I can hardly wait. Open up that golden gate, California, here I come. Open up that golden gate, California, here I come. Freedom we claim, freedom shall reign, the freedom flame of Saint Germain.
America, we love you. America, we love you. America, we love you. And our love is great enough to hold you eternally victorious in the light.
Thank you, everyone. Won't you be seated?
Saint Germain,
In the invincible majesty of the light of freedom, I descend by free will choice into this city of an ancient light. Therefore, beloved, I am come to greet my own and my own hearts of the living flame of freedom. Welcome, O beloved, to my heart. You do me honor, beloved, to provide yourselves a living chalice and a living flame for my descent. Therefore, grateful for every precious gift of your heart, to the living spirit of cosmic freedom in the earth, I salute you as compatriots of a cosmos that we ignite for liberty's flame. In the oneness of my heart, beloved, I deliver then to you the violet flame dispensations accorded me from the central sun. Therefore I am the multiplier of the good works of all those who are keeping the fires of freedom worldwide. Wherever there is a light bearer in any clime or nation or race or compartment of consciousness, there am I with the gift of my violet flame this Valentine's Day. My desire is that this gift, multiplied by your heart, sent many times over, not as a chain letter but as a chain decree, beloved, will therefore be the igniting of wreaths of light around the planet and chains of rosaries of pearls from the heart of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Blessed ones, I have heard, I have delivered, I have seen, surely the handwriting in the stars above you. Know then, beloved, that our awareness of these conditions spans the ages. Surely you realize that in our retreats and by the advanced technology we also use, we have plotted the course of systems of worlds for millennia, both in the past and into the future, for all must one day meet. The precision with which these cycles occur, beloved, is entirely dependent upon the humanity with which we deal, whether or not an evolution may subject itself unto its own creation or transcend it. This is the question then, to be or not to be, above the darkness descending, to be or not to be in the center of the light. The law of self-transcendence is a gift from the heart of God. So is its understanding and application. Blessed hearts, you have observed how in the animal kingdom there is no self-transcendence, but only the redundant repetition of that which is an original matrix with a very slow evolution, if any evolution at all. Realize then that the gifts of God are not to be taken for granted. The gifts of God that go unused, therefore, are lost. Have the sons of God in the earth lost then the application of self-transcendence? I should say that in some cases it is so, and in some cases it is not. Would to God that all would summon the very power of Venus from on high, and know the descent of that star of the I Am Presence, that not as falling star of wormwood, but as the descent of light of a cosmos of the central sun, does come into your temple with a spiral of light that is for nothing less than the self-transcendence of the individual, of child-man, until he realizes himself as God-man and God manifestation. Thus, beloved, while some forget, and some have never known, and some have never been inscribed in the memory of God, you may determine to write your name in the sky and in the earth, and on documents that you will find at the retreat of the Royal Teton as you come while your bodies sleep this night to that area of the Grand Teton, escorted by angels of Archangel Michael, there to see and know how the destiny of nations in this hour can be forged, can be realized, can be raised to a victory by the conservation of that light force of the Divine Mother. Realize, beloved, that the opportunity is unprecedented. When in past ages of the last 2,000 years did the individual have the option to enter a path of the ascension unto the light eternal? When was the option opened to you in general to have my teaching bound and in the bookstalls of the nations? I tell you, beloved, for the gifts given, for the knowledge imparted, there ought to have been a greater harvest of souls by this hour. How then can a people to whom is given so great a salvation, so great a means to an end long sought, neglect that gift and that salvation? I tell you, beloved, though the human consciousness may be unpredictable, though it may fail to realize and appreciate the potential of Christ within, I say the soul does know, and I remain the champion of all souls in the age of Aquarius until the Lord God himself should take from me that opportunity. God forbid. Blessed ones, therefore, we are always gratified when the response to our message and our messenger does warrant a continued infiring of a locale by the action of a sacred alchemy. Oh, would to God, then, that keepers of the flame should rise up en masse in this city to deter cataclysm and earthquake prophesied. Would to God they would see and know that in these hills and beyond to the north, ancient temples of the Divine Mother have records and once stood. Therefore know, beloved, that those things which might have been may already have been withdrawn, but the fruits of victory are yet possible to every individual who does know that the hour of his fulfillment is come. If you then acknowledge your individual destiny in this planet and beyond, if you recognize that you have an immortality shining through the veil of matter, if you know that one day you shall not only transcend yourself, but transcend the stars, then believe me that I am Saint Germain, and that I am here, and that I am the champion of the light within you, and the master alchemist who looks for you to be a pupil on the path of that fulfillment. Blessed ones, the stars of the heavens are the signs of those who have gone before. Make your own star and causal body the signet in this hour of your commitment to your own personal cosmic freedom. Can those who move on a dying world do any less than claim the stars and their own stardom? This is thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, and this is the will of our Father for you as it was for me. I am a master of the seventh ray, and I have chosen to be that master for one purpose, that you might see me shining in the splendor of the aura of Aquarius, and know that you may achieve the same as I have done. What man has done, man can do, and therefore never, and I say never, never allow the mediocrity of the mudslides of the planet to come upon you and to snuff out that hope for God realization. When you carry that hope in your heart, there is no tragedy in life, no monotony, no boredom that can take from you that star of hope. God realization is your reason for being, and your destiny today can be accelerated if you will it so. Therefore, I tell you, keep the flame and study my courses in alchemy, and I will show you how swiftly you can make a difference in the world's scene. Blessed ones, the astrology of the hour to the end of this century is dire. There is no other word for it. You have heard it. The wise who consider these statements will recognize the following: that mastery must come in spirit and in matter, and that efforts must be taken in all octaves of being. One does not rest one's case on a hope that enough souls of light on a planet will deliver the mandate of the violet flame that can be received by the karmic board to turn the tide of world history. There is more than violet flame involved, beloved. There is free will. And there are many in positions of power this day who have amassed power and wealth and armaments and technology, whose free will is committed to world destruction. I should not trust my fate to their hands, nor should you. Therefore, the wise will remove themselves to that point in time and space which they discover by meditation and unerring guidance of my angels is the correct place for them to be. Do not consider then that you who have not attained to the levels of an ascended master may turn the world around merely by the raising of the right hand. If it were so, beloved, we should long ago have done this through you. What you ultimately can do and must do in all of the promises you have heard is to invoke that violet flame and to continue to invoke it and use Archangel Michael's rosary for Armageddon. For much will change, much will be set aside. Entire kingdoms may come to their judgment. Yet you must be found out of the way. For this very process to occur, world chemicalization is in order. Thus, beloved, while you fully believe in a complete and total victory for the light, you also secure yourselves in the physical octave. You get out of the way of the wave of human karma and the waves which rise in world cataclysm. You secure yourselves, and from a bastion of light, from an inner retreat, you direct waves of light into the earth, and know that our angels will save all that can be saved. Practicality then takes into account that God does not interfere with free will, nor do the ascended masters, nor do the angels. If some have committed themselves to the vicious plot of creating and spreading a plague such as AIDS upon this planet, blessed hearts, as has been done by nefarious individuals, and this expose is yet to come, I tell you, where a people is vulnerable, the free will of the powers of darkness may bring upon the nations untold mourning and burden. But you have an equal gift of free will and an access to unlimited power in your I Am presence and its direction through the science of the spoken word. Therefore, the effects of another's exercise of free will may be challenged and transmuted by yourselves. Now, if you see yourselves with my angels as the cosmic cleanup committee of planet Earth, well, you have rightly positioned yourselves. The question remains, How much can a people so committed clean up? You see, beloved, there is limitation. Otherwise, all should have unlimited powers to alter the course to their own design of world history. Therefore, know that free will comes down to the gift of the world that is you. You in the microcosm, as this messenger has repeated to you often, may raise up such a fire and such a light as to be a conversion point for millions, and to be the springboard of your own victory and ascension in the light. By the power of persuasion and the enlightenment of the Holy Spirit, you may talk and preach and deliver my message everywhere you go. And you may find by the miracles of God and by a turning around of a national conscience toward the defense of freedom and of this land, there may yet be a saving grace that every single prophecy heard this night may be consumed. Blessed ones, to count on this without taking the necessary physical measures would be tantamount to gambling. And you gamble, you know not what, for you know not what will be the response or the free will of all others who have heard it. Therefore, beloved, we long ago directed our messengers to found the inner retreat at the site in Montana as a place set aside in a wilderness area where those who keep the flame of freedom for earth may do so without suffering the backlash of those energies of civilization into which that light is directed. Do not think that the fallen ones will take their judgment lying down. They will thrash and react, and those who are in the way will experience, therefore, not only their calamitous judgment, but the aftermath of their reactionary measures, as they always use change in the world scene to reinforce another amalgamation of power. Thus the cyclic rounds of light descending must be received by sons of God who take that light and take their stand and defend the little ones who are always the victims of the abusers of life in the earth. Blessed hearts, I trust that I make myself clear. The preparedness at a personal and national level has never been more paramount. Your preparedness in your life can be complete in a matter of months. When you are fully prepared and determined to survive physically in the earth, come what may, in all of these predictions and those you have heard elsewhere, you are then a free agent of Saint Germain, and you may give your life and heart to this very cause of stopping those conditions in their tracks before they are outpictured, and therefore rendering your preparations only a safety valve, a security net, a lifeboat, if you will. Know this, beloved, that those who are prepared often do not need to avail themselves of their preparations, but it is the absence of preparedness that does make a nation vulnerable. We have tried without success to impress this message upon the leaders of this nation and the leaders of movements and social movements, leaders of churches and politicians. They have not heard us, and the sands in the hourglass run out. We do not have a voice in the earth except through you, and therefore what you do in this hour that is left to you remains your option. As the day of Saint Valentine is upon us, I give to you then a gift from my purple fiery heart. And that purple fiery heart matrix, beloved, is an amethyst heart, surrounded by tiny diamonds. These diamonds are prayer beads for the counting of the 33 steps on the spiral of your initiation and the 33 times you give my decrees. This is a living amethyst heart, which is as real and tangible on the etheric plane as anything you have is in this physical octave. These hearts come to you now as with wings. They are superimposed as a focus of my heart over your heart. By this gift of the Valentine of my heart, beloved, may you know that our hearts are one, and that my heart with your heart, multiplying the action then, can give you, while there is time, a tremendous impetus to world transmutation as you give the calls to the violet flame. An impetus of the Holy Spirit for the conversion, the turning around of many hearts to embody the living spirit of cosmic freedom. This amethyst heart is a lodestone. It gives direction to your footsteps and a roseate glow of the warmth of the love of Mary. Let love lead the way and deliver your hearts to the highest mountain of consciousness. And may you, from the heart of the earth and inner levels, so bless a planet that when the dark night of her karma is spent and the skies are clear and the light is shining, you may see a new day and live unto that new day and be in a position to be my assistants, guiding and teaching souls in the alchemy of building the new world. Let the great instauration on planet Earth begin now. Let the spiritual building take place within, and within the heart of the mountains of the inner retreat. Let that building then be such a magnificent etheric matrix as to render obsolete the old order of decay and dying. Let us see the sign and the mark of the Golden Age man and Golden Age woman, of the Aquarian child. Let us see the eternal youth and the light shining from the aura. Let us know that Aquarius is an age of freedom unto full mastery in physical embodiment. It is an age when the world can be so accelerated as to draw you in to higher and higher vibrations until you realize that the old physical nature of the planet has itself been transcended. As you change your diet and outlook, and let the sign of the mantra be the seventh ray, you will see that the new world is in a higher vibration and octave than the last. Blessed hearts, I am walking with you into this new world. I take you each one by the hand. I am walking with you unto the hour that the natural course of your life on earth is fulfilled, that by the hand I may lead you into the Royal Teton Retreat. Blessed hearts, the fulfillment of all of the promises of God is upon you. So long as you claim me as your brother and friend, I am at your side. And when you give but 15 minutes of violet flame decrees each day, you allow me to place an extraordinary measure of my electronic presence with you. Thus I am seeking the lamplighters who will ignite a planet with violet flame candles, that all of the stars and the angels may look down upon it and know that a planet has been claimed for freedom by a people who awakened before it was too late. O freedom's star, be thou the fullness of these causal bodies of light, these hearts so full of love. I am sealing you now, beloved, sealing all who have come newly to my heart or kept the flame for lifetimes. I seal you in my aura and light, and I am with you unto the fulfillment of the age. May your choices be to ratify heaven's design, and may you know yourself centered in the pillar of violet flame that shall not go out on earth so long as there is the keeper of the flame. I bow to the light of Almighty God within you, each one. For the sealing of this service from the heart of Saint Germain, I would like to read to you a valentine that he wrote many years ago to his keepers of the flame. As you know, he was embodied as Francis Bacon and wrote the Shakespearean plays. This is what he wrote through Mark Prophet. Methought I would compose a sonnet valued by the world, a poem with light of love upon it, a challenge to be hurled. The spear I shake and now do make a willing of I am, to be the break that all may take, O lovely God, I am. For thou hast sought and to men brought opportunity and plan, but men have thought and oft been caught by delusions in a jam. Now if the power of truth this hour earth's freedom course must chart, there must be men, O valiant men, to rally from the start, to see behind the shams of men the fraud they have created, attacking truth and sons of light whom they have oft berated. Now I might add, this not so bad assessment of our friends is bad enough through lacking love, how they have underrated. But we who've been a part of earth and felt the lash of tyrants bold, for freedom's sake we now do make a call to hearts of gold. Stand stalwart then, and let your heart be framed by fragrant flowers, not earthly substance that will fade. Choose immortelles from heaven's bowers, and see thy heart as altar chalice, loved by God and man, and holding forth forevermore tripartite flame, 'twill exalt the plan. You are never alone, but always one with us who love you now, and as all came from central sun, our love's eternal vowed. may I on this occasion speak of the heart to those of you who are perhaps familiar with the subject, and at the same time, inasmuch as many new souls are joining the ranks of those who read and love the pearls of wisdom, may I say to all that your heart is indeed one of the choicest gifts of God. Within it there is a central chamber surrounded by a force field of such light and protection that we call it a cosmic interval. It is a chamber separated from matter, and no probing could ever discover it. It occupies simultaneously not only the third and fourth dimensions, but also other dimensions unknown to man. This central chamber, called the altar of the heart, is thus the connecting point of the mighty silver cord of light that descends from your God presence to sustain the beating of your physical heart, giving you life, purpose, and cosmic integration. I urge all men to treasure this point of contact that they have with life by giving conscious recognition to it. You do not need to understand by sophisticated language or scientific postulation the how, why, and wherefore of this activity. Be content to know that God is there and that within you there is a point of contact with the divine, a spark of fire from the Creator's own heart, called the threefold flame of life. There it burns as the triune essence of love, wisdom, and power. Each acknowledgement paid daily to the flame within your heart will amplify the power and illumination of love within your being. Each such attention will produce a new sense of dimension for you, if not outwardly apparent, then subconsciously manifest within the folds of your inner thoughts. Neglect not then your altar as the altar of God. Neglect it not as the sun of your manifest being. Draw from God the power of love and amplify it within your heart. Then send it out into the world at large as the bulwark of that which shall overcome the darkness of the planet, saying, I am the light of the heart, shining in the darkness of being, and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. With this gift of infinite freedom from God's own heart, this Valentine season, I close this epistle with a never-ending promise to assist you to find your immortal freedom as you determine never to give up and never to turn back. Remember that as long as you face the light, the shadows are always behind, and the light is there too to transmute them all. Keep your gaze toward the city, and be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. For the freedom of all mankind, lovingly I am, Saint Germain. This I am the light of the heart decree, Saint Germain tells us in his book, Saint Germain on Prophecy, can be given as a mantra for the healing of the economy. It is in your mantra booklets, and we gave them this evening. The film of our Royal Teton Ranch, the favorite spot of Saint Germain, is about to play, so you can see what that 33,000-acre ranch looks like. Thank you very much, and good evening. Light bearers of the world, children of the sun, welcome to the inner retreat. We begin a bold adventure at our inner retreat. It is the mighty work of the ages, and this is the place of our community, the cradle of a new civilization. Here we stand on the promontory of the rock, and there, the mighty Yellowstone, the river and the park, and behind us, the Royal Teton Retreat. And we are the Royal Teton Ranch, physical focus of an ancient memory. We stand here and we contemplate the flame of our beloved Gautama, and we feel the flow of Shambhala. We look to the valley, the very heart of our retreat, and there we gather for our freedom song each 4th of July, for the victory of the age, for the teachings of the masters. This is the place of great encounters, where we encounter the real self, the mighty I Am Presence, Sanat Kumara, and friends of light who will come through this very valley from all over the world, called by the mighty heart flame of the word itself. We welcome you to the heart, and we sing the song of gratitude. Hear, O universe, I am grateful. Hi, everyone. God bless you. God bless you all. We meet in the strangest places, don't we? We meet in the heart of the inner retreat. It's a great miracle, but this miracle was wrought by God and man. And you are a part of that wondrous miracle, every single heart flame burning here today. And so, for 24 years, we have been working to build the Summit Lighthouse. Mark Prophet started in 1958. And I don't know, in the farthest reaches of his outer consciousness, if he saw us here. And yet I wouldn't be surprised that he did, because Mark saw many, many things. And I used to see him seeing those things, and I'd say, "What do you see?" And he said, "I can't tell you." So I know he knew a great deal. And Maury and Mark used to speak to me about the great expansion of this activity. Surely this is a great magnet and focus for the expansion of the light on the earth. And I'm sure you all feel, as I feel, a tremendous protection, serenity, and the ability to seal our efforts in the heart of the mountains. It presents a great, great challenge to us. But we are up to that challenge, and the masters are up to that challenge. We get a chance to figure out how to survive, how to build, how to use energy in new forms, testing all the things that we've heard about for the new age. It's a wonderful land. It's a great white piece of paper. I haven't seen all of this property yet. I've gone pretty far on it, walking, hiking, by car, horseback riding. It represents a future that we and those coming after us will have ample room to write upon. We have so much to be grateful for So many beautiful things to talk about. It is so wonderful to see you.